Well, it's a beautiful day outside today, ain't it, y'all? I'm really happy to find this out. It was supposed to be cold here today. I'm deep in the southern reaches of the Mesoravand, the homeland of my people, the vast swaths of eastern North America. And today I'm in the southern reaches of the Mesoravand to see this. That moving, blurry, pixelated spot might not look much to you, thanks to the awful quality of my camera, but that right there is an osprey, y'all. And this is what my people call the fish eagle, or the fish hawk, for they are eagles that eat fish. And it is high up on the old watchtower, the old fire tower. All the local Qarsherskiyan folks around here call this tower the Tower of Kandlar, and it is very tall. Now that I have talked about an osprey for some reason, I shall begin my live stream about me now, because I ain't that osprey up there, and if you clicked on this video, you probably wanted to hear about me. So, I go by many names. One is Brennan, one is Redbeard, or Sultan Ali, if you will. Sultan Ali Redbeard, or Brennan White. And I'm a descendant of the Whitelow family in Madison County, London, Ohio. And, well, it's an interesting story for those of you unfamiliar with it. But some of you who are not new to my channel are probably tired of hearing me repeat myself. So just to kind of quickly summarize it up, basically, it's a family that's mixed race over multiple generations. If you try to trace our lineage back to our first mixed ancestor, you gotta go back hundreds of years to the birth of the United States itself. So, we're mostly a mix of black and white, and we also carry the DNA of distant North African and Native American ancestors. And we always knew that we was mixed, and we know who we are. And none of this is new news to us. And I am one of the most well-known people in the Qarsherskiyan community. The Yellowville people of London, Ohio, or the Madison County Yellowbones, or any other terms that we used to be called in the past, this group of people, which includes several families, including the one I descended from, Whitelow family, from my grandpa, Todd Whitelow. These people are just one example of many such groups of mixed-race communities that we now call Qarsherskiyan. The criteria for being Qarsherskiyan is that you either descended from Ethnic Creoles brought to the Atlantic coasts of the USA or Canada, or you descended from multi-generationally mixed-race communities with early mixed-race roots, what people would call ethnic mixed-racial isolate or triracial isolate. And if you are part of such a heritage, but you're not from like the Melungeon community or the Lumbee community or any of the other groups that got names and got organized, then you have the right to become part of the Qarsherskiyan community. For all the communities that by 1991 they didn't have a name, they weren't organized communities like the Lumbee or the Melungeon community. We all, an old saying is that the Qarsherskiyan community contains all the leftover triracial isogroups, kind of balled up and lumped together because of our similar heritage and fusion culture, which we inherited from our ancestors of different backgrounds. And cultural traditions and practices and stuff like this, it varies from family to family to family in our community, and also from region to region too. There's some regional variance. But genuinely, we could be divided into subgroups based on the kind of area we live in. Like if you live in Midwest or Great Lakes region, like Ohio, then that's one group. Another would be those who are from the Appalachian regions. A lot of Qarsherskiyans are in central and northern Appalachia. We're not the same as the Melungeon community. Most Melungeons are down in southern Appalachia. And there's many of us in the Tidewater region. They're called Tidewater Creoles. So, yeah, and I wanted to tell you guys about me and how I got to where I am today. As of early 2026, at the time I'm making this video, I'm probably one of the most well-known young people who talks about our community and our heritage, who's making videos on the internet trying to document our community and our heritage and stuff, and finding other descendants of our community, helping them reconnect and all. So yeah, let's get to talking about that. So, back in 2019, the term Qarsherskiyan was introduced to the internet. It originated around 1991 among a close-knit group of friends from London, Ohio. They wanted to come up with a name. They said, we aren't quite black. The black folks call us light skin or yellow people or red bone. But we're definitely not white. Like the white folks reject us. Most of us. There's a few of our relatives that can pass as white, but most of us aren't. And so they basically said, we're going to come up with this term Qarsherskiyan. We're our own people now. And so that's how that happened. But they didn't really tell other people about it or publicize it for the public to know about this term until 2019, when some of their kids grew up always hearing their parents, talk at meetings with their old friends and be like, yeah, we're the Qarsherskiyans. Some of the kids of these people really like this because, as mixed race folks, been pushed around back and forth. You're too white, you're not black enough, this and that. With the identity issues some people get, it kind of resonated with many of us that, yeah, we have our own unique experience. As mixed race people, we have our own unique experience, and our community is really a community of its own. It's separate from other communities. We're kind of our own people now, in between somewhere, the mixed folk. And so that's how in 2019, a bunch of these young folks started publicly self-identifying as Qarsherskiyan and posting about it online. The more people related to our communities who qualify as what counts as Qarsherskiyan, with the description of the kind of heritage you gotta have, I talked of just earlier a moment ago, more and more people found out about this term, and more members of our community begin to self-identify as Qarsherskiyan. And there was a lot of talk around 2020, like March or May 2020, April 2020, about endonym versus exonym. An exonym would be a term outsiders call us, like mulatto, quadroon, octoroon. Some historical records on my family say bearded Injun and blue-eyed Negro, which is kind of wild, but that's the way people talked about each other back then. Well, the term Negro didn't used to always be as offensive as many find it today. My grandpa, Todd Whitelow, when he was born, they didn't know what to call him because of his, in-between tone. We were what black folks called light-skinned blacks or yellow people. So they put Negro on his birth certificate. And he's proud of this. That's his heritage. That's how he grew up. He's not going to bury it. He's not going to hide it. He's not hiding who we are. He's not offended by this. Back then, that's what black people in America were called. The old baseball league, it was called the Negro League. That's how the term was back then. Now, usually if someone says that, they're trying to be offensive. But a lot of times it depends on the context and who's telling you it and why. But it's complicated, really. Yeah, so that's how, and by 2020 we start talking about those exonyms. That's what outsiders call us. But endonyms is what we call ourselves. Some people say light-skinned black. Some people say Qarsherskiyan. Some people say mixed race. Some of us were able to better stay in touch with... there's a lot of traffic by me. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Some of us were able to better stay in touch with the native part of their heritage. Those of us enrolled in tribes will just say they're Native American. Because the Native Americans around here, they got it right. They abolished this idea of blood quantum. It's a colonial concept meant to erase Native American nations and make them shrink until they disappear. But, yeah, so in the Qarsherskiyan community, we don't have no blood quantum. We're a mixed race community. You can't have racial purity in a mixed race community. There's no Qarsherskiyan DNA. There's no pure Qarsherskiyan blood. There's some trolls on the internet who aren't part of our community, who tried to pretend to be part of our community and harassed us. Most of our accounts got reported and banned, and we're starting to learn how to get help to file lawsuits because of slander, libel, defamation, harassment, threats, stalking, terrorist attack threats against our community, especially from some neo-Nazi groups I won't name and the Ku Klux Klan. But they're starting to leave us alone now because we found out how to legally fight back. And most of these people just talk online, but they won't do nothing to your face. I approached some of these people in person without a weapon on me, and they didn't do nothing. They got scared and they left. Now, I'm about to start carrying a weapon on me just to be safe. And now they're going to be even more scared to harass me. But, you know what? That's kind of how that happened. We chose an endonym, something that we call ourselves, not something that others put on to us, that you got to accept it and go with the flow and do what everyone else is doing. We don't have to fit neatly into neat little racial category boxes like, are you white, are you black? We're mixed. It's simple. It's not complicated. And we don't need to change ourselves, hide our heritage, or identify differently to satisfy other people. We know who we are. We always knew who we were. There's a lot of people who used to think they were white, and in the last couple decades, they started identifying as Melanesian in the Melanesian community. Because for many of them, in order to survive the horrible racism they faced, they passed as white, and over generations, some got disconnected. People had to move away from Appalachia sometimes. But in the Qarsherskiyan community, you don't really hear these kinds of stories. Most of us know who we were. We knew who we were. Well, we are also have mixed ancestors going back just as far, back to the 1600s here in the States and Canada, but at the same time, we weren't all trying to pass as white and marry into white families as much. There are some people in our community who tried to start passing as white once, some descendants could look the part after generations of some families that from our community were marrying into white families sometimes. But that was more of a recent modern phenomenon. They hadn't really been doing that long enough that they could have generations that actually forget that they're actually mixed. That was more of the Melanesian community. In our community, many people just looked phenotypically black, just like any other black American. And many still do today, like my grandpa Todd Whitelow. He identifies as black. That's how he grew up his whole life. But he's part of our community, and he's mixed race, and he knows all about this. And he's proud of his heritage. He doesn't deny it or nothing. But other people will tell him he's black, and he can't change who he is, and he won't. And he grew up facing the racism that a black man faces, because he's black, and white people don't notice or don't care that he's more lighter than some black folks can be. So, it's really interesting. There's a lot of intersectionality, I guess is the word people throw around when talking about this in our community. Basically, there's a lot of places about our identity that cross over with other communities, like there's crossovers with the native and black and white communities. Some of us look more white, some of us look more black, some of us get mistaken for Hispanic people. Like my adopted dad, Sherman Cedric White, one of the most well-respected of the Qarsherskiyans in London, Ohio. He invented the Qarsherskiyan sophopia. And when we would go to Mexican restaurants, because of the way he looked, people thought he was Hispanic. They'd start speaking to him in Spanish, and he would be like, I don't know how to speak Spanish, and they'd be like, well, where are you from? What are you? And he would tell them that he was Indian. He was a red man. They would be like, oh, wow, what tribe are you from? And he said, I is a Monig. And they'd be like, what's the Monig tribe? I never heard of this one before. And this is where it gets diabolical, y'all. You know what Monig means? Well, he'd tell them when they ask, what's this tribe? He'd say the Monig. More Negro than Indian. That's what it meant. He's well known for saying this in the Qarsherskiyan community in London, Ohio. He's not the only one who said this. A bunch of people in the family did. He is my adopted dad, but he's related to me by blood too. He would be my second cousin. Now, my grandpa Todd Whitelow, I told you about earlier, Sherman is his nephew. But they are the same age. They grew up together like brothers. So that'll kind of give you the idea of the relationship they had. So when I was 3, when I was around 3 years old, and my biological family, they couldn't really have me, and it was time for me to get adopted so I could have a better life. They wanted more from me than they could give me. They was thinking about, who will we give little Brennan to? He's going to be adopted out. And my grandpa Todd is the one who suggested that his nephew, who was like his brother, they grew up together, Sherman, take care of me. So Sherman got a hold of me. When I was 3, he became my new dad. And he raised me right, and he was a good man. He's well respected. Many people have tried to put words in his mouth as of 2026. There's been a bunch of people harassing me and some of my relatives the last few months. And they keep claiming that they just talked to Sherman, in the last few months. That they talked to him and that he's saying that we're full of crap and stuff. Except he passed away on August 20th, 2016. So nobody talked to him in the last few months. And he never said that, and we all know this. There's been people on the internet falsely claiming to be from London, Ohio, and they're not even from anywhere near Ohio at all, let alone London, Ohio. They're from other parts of the USA or even from Canada or the UK. They're white people pretending to be part of our community and trying to stop us because they don't like that we know who we are and we're proud of our mixed heritage and we got a community, and there's some racist white supremacists, and we found out we was related to them for genealogy. It was like, dude, you got black in you. And these people got so mad because they wanted to be pure Aryans, whatever that means. And so that's what happened in 1991. The friends who came up with the term Qarsherskiyan, I'm not allowed to tell you what their names were or where the meetings took place when that happened. It was in someone's home. It was just casual, you know. There was like a barbecue or a cookout or a meeting in someone's living room where they were having dinner. Dennis knows more of the story behind that, but we're not allowed to tell you who these people were or where their house was because the Ku Klux Klan is threatening us, and they want to know who did it, and we're not going to tell them. 1991, before I was born in 2005, it was decades ago, but we still ain't telling nobody, and we're still protecting our folks as we do. We look out for one another. Now, something I will tell you about, in 2019, I was making YouTube videos already. I had been making YouTube videos for decades, and my relatives have even called me by that point a future youth leader for the Qarsherskiyan community. But I still wasn't really familiar with the term Qarsherskiyan back then. It wasn't something I regularly called myself yet. I knew about the term, but I didn't even know how to pronounce it or what it was. I was just like, is that what you call black people in London, Ohio? And I didn't know that all these black people are actually mixed and, you know, all the history that I know now. So, yeah, man. Well, in London, Ohio, there's a family called the Napper family. A husband and wife got together and got married, and they had like 20 kids. And a lot of them came out what people would call black people with blue eyes or green eyes or gray eyes. Many of them have like blonde curly hair and stuff. And they're one of the most famous examples of some unique combinations of features that Qarsherskiyan folks can have due to mixed race heritage. But there's been, they're kind of like, they don't really go out publicly and talk about their heritage and stuff. They're not like people doing what I'm doing. And you kind of understand, because this family is referenced so much, they kind of have their lives private, you know. They're just people like you and me. They don't want to do what I do. I made a hard choice to do what I do, putting my face and name on the internet while I talk about this stuff that's controversial that upsets people like white supremacists due to things like white fragility, some people get really upset. Just because I just said that, there's people who want to kill me right now. Just because I just said white fragility, someone is probably going to see this and they don't know what it means. And they think it means that because they're a white person, I'm saying that they are fragile. And they're going to prove that point that they are by getting mad and wanting me to die. I already know all this. I've dealt with all the threats and slander. There's posts on Reddit falsely claiming one of my uncles is a registered sex offender who leads our community and attends youth meetings with kids in the same hotel. And he doesn't even identify as Qarsherskiyan and isn't involved in any of our community events. And he's nowhere near any kids or anything. But he's a registered offender, I guess. Something happened years ago. I don't really talk to him or know him too well. He just happens to be a descendant of our community. It's my uncle. And people falsely on the internet started claiming that I am always all around him and involved with him, and that me and him are taking kids places, driving them. And that's not happening. He's not here. I don't even know how to drive. Someone claimed that I was driving a van around, picking up kids and bringing them to my Uncle Christian's house. That didn't happen. I don't even know how to drive. I never learned how to drive. I don't even know how to drive a four-wheeler. I've ridden on them, on the backs, but I never drove one. I don't know how to drive at all, guys. It's not because I'm dumb, but no one ever taught me. I've had a rough life. There's a lot of personal stuff that I'm not going to go into. I just don't need to put that on YouTube or for the world. I don't owe everyone an explanation for some of the things I've been through with my adopted family and all, and why I haven't been able to learn how to drive until recently. Now I'm allowed to and able to, but I still won't yet because I have to get money to go to a driver's school. And I got to get employment other than just donations on the internet, which aren't for me to survive, but to continue the research I've done. So, life is a pretty tough thing at times, but I keep going. No one has shook me. No one has scared me into hiding. We know who we are, and we're going to keep identifying as Qarsherskiyan. So, around 2019, I had already been making videos on the internet, and my relatives saw, they said, he's really smart. He knows a lot about this kind of stuff. And so over time, people started teaching me things. I got interested, and I started seeking knowledge. That's how I became the person I am today. By 2021, I was helping Monique and Alia with the world building project for other young folks like me. I was born in 2005. So 2021 in October would be when I turned 16 years old. And around that time, I was working with Monique and Alia already on their world building project for the kids, the Bahari Terra stuff, So that's how I became one of the early internet pioneers for our community. And by 2023, that's when, in March 28th, 2023, that's when the micronation publicity stunt to gain attention for our community started. That's when I started the Islamic Sultanate of Qarsherski, if you will, as a publicity stunt to help gain attention for our community and kind of like as a form of protest against the federal government and stuff like that, which is, it's not anti-American. Protesting the government is the most American thing ever. I don't know why people always try to put words in my mouth, take things I say out of context. They don't scare me. A bunch of blind people can believe everything they hear about me on Reddit, but that's not going to change what I do. I don't care if you get 10 billion upvotes on Reddit. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to change who I identify to satisfy other people. We got each other's back in our community. We know who we are. All these people on the internet are fake. We don't even care about the threats that they're saying. So, I'm just out here now. That's how, in June of 2024, Monique and Alia and others pressured me to put an end to the Sultanate micro stunt thing. I originally wanted it to be called a Walayat or a Caliphate, but because my nickname was Sultan Ali, and Sultan often means an authority or ruler, they said I should call it a Sultanate. But they asked me to close it, said the memes and the lore behind the micronation had gotten out of control online. It had become like an internet joke, basically. So it was no longer serving our agenda that we were trying to forward and advance to help other people find out about our community and do research about us and bring attention to issues we face and help create unity between Christians and Muslims in our community. So, 2024, they told me to stop, and that was June of 2024 when I closed it for them. And a couple months later, in September 2024, that's when they started pushing the old term Sweet Gum Creole. Around the same time the term Qarsherskiyan was made for our community, Sweet Gum Creole was a term created for all the triracial isolate type communities, whether they were Qarsherskiyan or not, including other groups besides just us, like the Melungeons, the Lumbis, anyone of this type of heritage, even if they were from one of the named groups that had a name before 1991. When referring to them all, Afro-Seminoles and all of them, you would just say Sweet Gum Creole. And we had published the term Qarsherskiyan and put that out on the internet by 2019, but the old term Sweet Gum Creole almost got forgot. And it was on the internet before, but it wasn't really until like the late 2024 that Monique and Alia started pushing that one. That was around the same time we got more members of our community. We had convinced them to do what me and others do now, what I do and a couple other dozen young people do, using social media to help just kind of put out information, talk about who we are. We're mainly trying to document stuff for future generations and archive our culture, but also to kind of run into other members of our community online and connect with other folks from our community. And also it serves to educate outsiders about who we are, especially now that there's some people, we got our groups of haters out there trying to make us look bad. So it really helps to publicly post about all our intentions and what we're about. That really helps disprove rumors people make about us. Like someone has, not Tumblr, a Medium. They build a little blog on a website called Medium where you can post blogs. They have a blog called Little Corn Blossom dedicated to falsely accusing me of being a leader of the whole community and claiming that I made up the term and just, somehow time traveled to before I was born. And they are also pushed misinformation that I mentioned earlier about my uncle Robert Christian McCoy, falsely accusing him of stuff. Because years ago, something happened between him and his girlfriend before I was born, I think it was, and I'm like 20 now. Can't believe I'm 20, dude. Just 4 years ago, I was like 16. But, so they was like falsely accusing him of being like some kind of predator. He did something that's pretty wrong, which I can't condone, years ago, and he got charged for that and served time for that. Now he's on a list of registered offenders, and people falsely accused him of working with me and called us two co-leaders of the community. They claimed he was the face of the community. They claimed that we were taking kids around places, and that's not true at all. Of course, everyone who's with us or people from London know this isn't happening. There's some haters out there trying to say horrible things about us to make us look bad. They post it on Reddit, and everyone believes it because they got photos of us and paragraphs typed accusing us of stuff. And I guess that's somehow enough proof for the average Redditor. But most of their posts actually got taken down by moderators, because we just started making posts exposing the misinformation and disproving their claims. Then we would report all their posts spreading misinformation about us to moderators, and we'd send them links to rock solid, undeniable evidence that makes us pretty much guilt-free of all that they say we've done. So, we know that in 1996, Charlene, was writing about Qarsherskiyan people riding the horses in southern Ohio. And obviously, if I was born in 2005, and back then my uncle Christian McCoy, Robert, he was just a teenager back then. So, you know, he couldn't have been an old man in the video of the old man. So we have lots of evidence that people in our community have been calling ourselves Qarsherskiyan since 1991, before I was born. It's just it was only a couple people at first. We didn't really publicize it until modern times. I mean, if people want to talk about how I'm one of the main faces on the internet, talking about the community, posting about it all day, making so much videos that I often appear higher in the search results than some of the other people, then that would be true. But I'm not even the first person to talk about our community on the internet. When Bahari Terra collapsed and it almost got taken over by haters and trolls and stuff who tried to abuse it and its storytelling purposes, the vast majority, like 95% of all content on Bahari Terra, got deleted from the internet and erased. And a lot of it was obscure enough that no one really saved it, and it wasn't even on the Internet Archive. So usually if you post something on social media, it's there forever. But I guess with Bahari Terra, they actually managed to like erase it from the internet. The Internet Archive, I guess it doesn't document everything on the internet, and some things that are only up for a year or two and don't get a lot of attention could possibly get taken down and actually disappear if no one saves it or reposts it anywhere. But of course, that's only like 95%. 5% of the original posts about Bahari Terra from back in the early 2020s and the late 2010s are still up. Even posts from before I joined and helped them on that project. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. A lot of stuff we had to edit because when we was trying to dismantle Bahari Terra, because we thought we were going to lose it to the trolls hijacking it, and we was taking stuff down, some people were really proud of the beautiful videos they got of beaches and mountains and stuff, which they incorporated into being the beaches in Banda Bahari Terra and the Pecan Vista Mountains of Bahari Terra. So it was just said, just edit the post to say where the real locations are. So a video of the Appalachian Mountains, they just edited it to remove any fictional fantasy storytelling tied to it. They removed anything mentioning Bahari Terra and replaced it with the real locations. But now, all of a sudden, the last couple months, after it's been several years, the trolls are trying to use this against us. Because some of the original trolls who hated the Bahari Terra project and tried to hijack it, and thankfully failed, they actually somehow got online and contacted other internet trolls who hate the ethnic Qarsherskiyan community. And they joined forces to try to smear us and stuff and be like, look, these guys had a fictional world called Bahari Terra and they edited stuff and replaced it with Qarsherskiyan. And well, we just told the truth about what happened and showed screenshots, so they didn't really convince anyone on that, thankfully. Their best thing that they could try to do is to try to slander our community and smear us with horrible accusations, trying to make us look bad. But thankfully, some folks like me made videos like every day and recorded everything that we were doing, all the food we ate, and wrote down stuff. So we got a lot of solid evidence. It's enough to keep the trolls from confusing people, thankfully. But we also could be digging for even more evidence. If we work harder, we can really bury any of the hatred we're getting online from confused people. Because the trolls, they seem like pretty lazy people, right? If you notice the work they do, the main thing that they love to do is spread misinformation to make people mad, so they harass us. They don't even want to harass us themselves because they're tired of all the legal lawsuits we started going after them for it. So now they're trying to basically outsource their team of harassment for us by just getting random people on the internet to believe misinformation and get mad at us and harass us. But as soon as we start like showing them stuff and explaining who we are and our positions and all, usually people back down and they realize that they were fooled. Some people have a big ego and they don't want to admit they were wrong, but even they leave us alone. They just are still mad for some reason, even though we're not the ones who misled them and wasted their time. But yeah, so that's how I got to where I am today. We started taking legal action. We got a lot of the slander posts taken down. The few that are up, Google search results is hiding them, so they don't appear in Google search results anymore, because, you know, Google doesn't want to show people misinformation, and it's all being investigated by the FBI. And they were like, people's posts were getting taken down. Most of the death threats are gone by now. The post calling my little nephew, who's 9 years old, the N-word and saying they want to hang him with a noose, it's still up for some reason, but it's probably not going to be up for too much longer. That one really made me mad. But, yeah, man. There's some crazy people out there in the world. But we know who we are, and we're proud of who we are. And anyone who is confused about our community and tries to learn everything from TikTok and social media, I feel bad for people who believe everything they see on the internet. I actually feel bad for these people. But you know what? Do you think that we give a flying fish? If you said no, you're right. You betcha. No, you betcha. We don't give a flying fish at all.